You are Locked On Chargers Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Los Angeles on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Yes, indeed. Hello and welcome to the first Locked On Chargers Postcast. I am your host, Pete Fox, covering sports in LA, dating back to 2007 for ESPN LA and NBC Sports Radio. Also covered the Chargers for a number of years down in San Diego. And before that, when I worked in Palm Springs for an ESPN affiliate. So I've been around this team for a very, very long time. Now, if you're wondering what the heck the postcast is, if you are fans of Daniel and David and you watch them on the Locked On Chargers podcast Monday through Friday, well, what we do here on the postcast is we come on right after the game, like it just ended a few seconds ago, and we break it down for you, even in the preseason. So we thank you for joining me here. I know it's probably new to a lot of you, and you don't quite understand why this is happening. I also do the Locked On Dodgers postcast and the Locked On Clippers postcast and the Locked On Trojans postcast. So we've been through this before where people are like, I don't get it. What's the point? We already have Locked On podcast because we come in and we break it down right after the game. And I know Daniel and David do that as well, but I kind of am a little bit more heat of the moment, like emotional about what we just saw. Obviously, it's the preseason, so we're not emotional at all right now, but we like to look at it like this. For the postcast, we go wide and narrow. We emotionally react to what we just saw. And then on the daily podcast, they go narrow and deep, and they tell you what it all means, like how it's going to affect this team moving forward next week, 2 weeks. Are they going to make the playoffs? Things of that nature. So that's what's going on here. And again, thank you for joining me here on the Locked On Chargers postcast, which is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Well, Chargers got off to a really, really slow, lethargic, ineffective start in this one, and that was largely based on Easton Stick not being able to do much of anything. And I kind of wasn't surprised. In all of my history of watching Easton Stick, reportedly the Chargers are big fans of him, and I don't necessarily get it. He's not terrible. He's healthy, seems like a good guy, and knows how to play football. But I've never seen Easton Stick do anything exciting in his career. I'm like, what is this excitement about Easton Stick other than he shows up and he's healthy? Today, 5 of 13 for 31 yards and an interception. And those the passes that were incomplete were not close. The interception nearly got his receiver sawed in half. Kind of got crushed pretty heavily there. But it wasn't a good pass, and I don't know if he wasn't ready. He being Easton Stick, but it just was like not really a productive, energetic, effective start for the Chargers offensively. Then later, in the second half, when Max Duggan came in, 4 of 7 for 41 yards. And then really the most exciting quarterback on the field tonight was Luis Perez, who played late in the game. He was 5 of 12 for 61 yards. Completing a fair amount of passes to Isaiah Spiller, who had a nice game, both running and receiving. So I don't know if Luis Perez is going to be a guy that's going to be around. These are the kind of things that we ask ourselves this time of year. Are we going to see Luis Perez? Is it going to be Max Duggan, or is it going to be Max Duggan and Easton Stick? I don't think Easton Stick is going anywhere. As I said, by all accounts, the Chargers are big fans of his, and they will keep him around. I don't think they're going to cut him because I don't think it ultimately really matters. Herbert is the guy. Herbert's got a plantar fascia issue. Obviously, we won't see him during the preseason, but everyone says that he will start week 1. So Easton Stick will probably be the backup again, and maybe Max Duggan is there as well. Sometimes they keep 2 guys around. It's hard to know at this point in time. I normally don't pay a ton of attention to the first game of the preseason. Sometimes I check in here and there later in the preseason. So I'm just going to be honest. The preseason for me is something that is not really my normal point of focus. But we here at Locked On are big supporters of the NFL, so we're all over it. We're doing it, and it is sometimes the hardest 3 weeks of our lives. So most of the people that cover football love the fact that they shortened the preseason to 3 games versus 4 games. So you try to find something positive. You try to find things to build on. Hey, that was cool. I enjoyed seeing that. What happened good today? Blah, blah, blah. Real quick, let me answer a question here from the comments from Noah. Hey, Pete, why was there no Locked On postcast for the Dodgers? And I guess there's not going to be one tonight as well. Noah, yeah, we're doing Chargers tonight. Yesterday, I missed the game for a couple of reasons. It was a family situation going on that involved hospitals and not being able to watch the game. I'm on the road in Nashville. For those of you that watch me on Locked On Dodgers or Locked On Clippers, I'm not at home. I'm on the road in Nashville. And one of the great things about the NFL is you can watch the NFL just about anywhere in the country or the world for that matter. Baseball, not necessarily as easy to find your team when you are away from home. So, Noah, I couldn't get the Dodger game. I later found out that I could have watched it on the MLB app. I am not a subscriber to that at this moment, but I probably will be to be able to watch the games on the road. But I'm heading home tomorrow and we'll be back up and running by Monday. We have Craig, who is a regular listener to the Dodgers postcast, says, I'm a Rams fan, but I'll listen. We'll appreciate your participation, Craig. I used to be a Rams fan as well. I used to work for the Rams, as a matter of fact, for about 3 years. I was JB Long's spotter, and that didn't end well. So when it came time to start working for Locked On, they said, do you have a problem covering the Chargers? I said, no, I'm covering the Chargers right now. So they're like, okay, you're our Chargers guy. I said, no problem. I also cover the Chargers for a team in Kansas City because they asked me to. So that's what's going on here with my affiliation to the Chargers. There's a lot of different ways to tie this thing in. But as far as their offense, I do have to say that Dicker, the kicker, looked good from 58 yards with a little draw on it. As Matt Smith talked about on the play-by-play, he was like, that's not something you see all that often because it was a quite drastic draw into the goalpost there for the only points of the night for the Chargers as they lose this one 16-3. I will tell you after the first break who I thought was probably the most exciting guy in the field. I mentioned Luis Perez, thought he was one of them, but there was another guy that I liked more because it just about every time that guy got his hands on the ball, it was exciting. So we'll do that right after the break. This is the Locked On Chargers postcast. Again, I'm Pete Fox, your host. We come on right after the game, and we break it down, tell you what happened, tell you our thoughts on it. You guys can jump in the chat, the comments, and share your thoughts, and I will post them or mention them or whatever. But another thing about tonight's game that was a little surprising was regarding all of the number 1 draft picks. So we can talk about that as well. But I'm going to tell you the guy that I thought was the most exciting. You can watch us on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel, and you can download us wherever you get your podcasts on the Locked On Chargers podcast feed. That's incidentally also where you find Daniel and David doing the weekly Monday through Friday podcast. All right, tonight's episode of the Locked On Chargers postcast is brought to you by our friends at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience are the formula for winning championships. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Of course, if you have an old beater, this will help it, stay running, keep it in good shape, keep it effective, keep it reliable. But if you've got one of these cars that maybe is a classic and you want to add some cool parts to it, level it up, if you will, you can get superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and some more of the regular maintenance like brakes, brake rotors, all of that stuff. I've purchased rotors and brake pads on eBay Motors many times, and it is always quite the bargain. I would say 20 to 25% of what you would pay if you went to an auto parts store. eBay Motors has got you covered with more than 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for with eBay Motors. And with eBay's guaranteed fit, your part is guaranteed you fit your ride every time, or you get your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay's guaranteed fit is only available to U.S. customers. All right, this is the Locked On Chargers postcast on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel. I am Pete Fox, your host. We'll be here after every game, breaking it down for you. And for you Locked On Dodgers postcast fans, I'm sorry, I'm not doing the game tonight. Oh, the other reason I forgot to mention that I decided to not do the game, in addition to the family situation that was going on yesterday, was I felt like I was bringing the Dodgers bad luck just of late. And of course, last night they went out and had a nice game. They hit some home runs. They hammered the Pirates comfortably. And last I saw, they were off to an early lead tonight as well. So that, it was a superstition thing. And I know a lot of you guys don't believe in that, but I do. So I think the Dodgers need this series. They need to go on a roll. And for whatever reason, I'm bringing them bad luck. So hopefully we'll get there tomorrow. But if not, back at it on Monday when they head out on the road to face the Milwaukee Brewers in Milwaukee at the stadium, now named after an insurance company, but used to be Miller Park. And as far as I'm concerned, it will always be Miller Park. But to pay off my tease from before the break, the guy that was the most exciting to me on the field was special teams punt and kick returner Jaylen Gil. Started the game with a 43-yard kick return, and just about every time that guy touched the ball, he was effective and exciting, and that was nice to see, because this new kickoff thing was a little bit different, and we didn't necessarily know how it was going to work out. We've heard that this is something intended to make kickoff returns more feasible and more accessible, or, more usable. A lot of times the last couple of years, it's just touchback and, start on the 20. And I don't know about you, but I've always thought the kickoffs were a very exciting part of football. So the fact that they basically made it an ineffective play to, increase safety of the players was kind of unfortunate. So it seems like this is going to help have a few more opportunities, if you will, to return the ball. So Jaylen Gil, 3 returns there on the kicks for 84 yards, and then 2 punt returns for 25 yards. His long was 19, and as I mentioned, his long kickoff return, 43 yards. So he's going to be an offensive weapon for the Chargers, hopefully, because it seems like he's got what it takes to play that position. Some of the other stuff tonight that was unfortunate to see, I guess, in addition to the ineffectiveness of Easton Stick, was we didn't see any of the top draft picks. I mean, we saw Joe Alt, the number 1 pick there, the tackle out of Notre Dame. He played, I don't know, a couple of series maybe, and that was when Easton Stick was in there. And did Stick get sacked twice for 5 yards? So they moved Joe Alt from the left side to the right side. He's still kind of getting comfortable with that, but by all accounts, it won't be a major problem for him. But we didn't see Ladd McConkey. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I apologize. That's the guy they moved from. No, it was Joe Alt. My note on Ladd McConkey is they feel that he's a very versatile receiver out of Georgia, the number 2 pick for the Chargers, that he can play both in the slot and on the outside. But we didn't get to see him tonight. The 3 pick, Junior Colson from Michigan. No. The 4 pick, Justin Igbigbe, I think is how you say his name. We saw him briefly, mention his name a few times. I didn't think he did anything spectacular. The 5 pick, Tarheeb Still, didn't see him. Cam Hart, the other 5 pick from Notre Dame. Kimani Vidal is like the third or fourth guy on the running back depth chart. Didn't see him. Brandon Rice from USC, the wide receiver, Ney, and the other 7th pick, Cornelius Johnson, wide receiver from Michigan. Didn't see anything of him either. So a lot of question marks still hanging out there as to who the Charger receivers are going to be this upcoming season. And a lot of those question marks are hanging around because of the ineffectiveness of Easton Stick playing the first half of the game, going 5 of 13. And let's not forget that this Charger team has gone through or is going through a major upheaval, a major personnel change in the wide receiver room. They have lost big-time receivers. Of course, Keenan Allen, who was their number 1 last year, he's gone. Mike Williams is gone. Austin Eckler is gone. Gerald Everett is gone. Just a lot of big names. The good news is Donald Parham Jr. is still there. He caught 1 ball tonight for 8 yards. But when you look at the depth chart, and I don't quite understand this, he's the 3rd receiver. Maybe that's because he's the number 1 tight end. But Josh Palmer, probably going to be the number 1 this year for the Chargers, who caught 2 touchdowns last year for 581 yards. Donald Parham, 285 yards, but 4 touchdowns last year. I feel like he's going to take a big step, make some big improvements, and be a more integrated, effective target for Justin Herbert this year in the tight end / wide receiver position for them, because he's got good hands and he's a big guy. Josh Palmer is obviously young as well, but is growing, and you can see there's a lot of talent there and will definitely improve and become a more effective part of the Chargers receiving core without a doubt. But the big story really, I think, tonight, other than the lack of offense, was the performance from the defense. They played very, very well. A lot of big plays at big times and, knocking balls away, shutting down the Seahawks offense. And, none of the big guys were there. We didn't see Bosa. We didn't see Mack, Derwin James. They're not even suited up. But Troy Dye, nice game. Looked good in the second half. Broke up some passes there and had a nice sack. JT Woods, Dean Leonard broke up some passes. And then Nick Nieman, probably the defensive player of the game, with 11 tackles. This guy was all over the place, and he was playing late into the 4th quarter. So that was nice to see as well, that the defense was playing hard and they were effective. They had a couple of calls go against them, but they kept battling. Probably the highlight of the night for them was a 3rd and goal at the 2-yard line. They stood him up, and then they kept him out of the end zone at 4th and goal as well. So they turned it over on downs. So that was really nice to see. But yeah, second touchdown for the Seattle Seahawks was clearly a holding call that was completely missed. The left tackle was totally stood up by 2 Seahawks right tackles, and Holani got into the end zone, no problem there, with an 11-yard touchdown pass. So the defense, a really nice job. AJ Finley, nice reaction to break up a pass. And then Dean Leonard, another nice job there. This was early in the second half, 3rd quarter, probably 6 to 7 minutes, because the Seahawks had the ball for that first series of the second half. That was 6-7 minutes. But that was the one where the Chargers ultimately kept him out of the end zone. Dean Leonard had some nice plays. So it feels like, look, let's be honest about what the Chargers need moving forward to be successful. Their defense needs to improve on what happened last year. There was just not enough going on defensively for this team with all the big names and all the money that was spent. Now, obviously, most of those guys are still there, but they just have to get better. They can't expect to be a playoff team with the way they played defensively last year. Offensively, I think there's considerably more question marks, but it feels like this defense is on the right track, and that's nice to see. Craig has an interesting question. What do I expect the Chargers record to be? Craig, this is not a path that I go down this time of year. And the main reason for that is I have no freaking idea. And I already look stupid enough frequently. So if I were to say, 10-7, they do play 17 games right now, right? Isn't that the new thing? Because it used to be 16, now it's 17. So if I said 10-7 or 9-6 or whatever. Not 9-6 is 15. I'm sorry, 9-8. see, what am I talking about here? How stupid am I? It's just not worth the risk for me because it's so hard to tell. There's a ton of question marks hanging around this team. There's a ton of question marks hanging around every team. Maybe a few weeks into the season, I'll give you an answer to that question, but not right now. I have no idea because we didn't see anybody today that we're going to see week one. I don't think. Maybe one or two people. Like we'll probably see the kick returner Jaylen Gil. Hopefully we'll see Isaiah Spiller. I thought he had a nice game. But beyond that, Nieman probably, Harper, but offensively, I don't think we see anybody that we saw today. So as to what their record will be, anybody's guess. But thanks for asking. How do you like that for avoidance? Craig sharing some Dodger info. River Ryan left with a right arm injury. Thanks for that, Craig. Awesome. Good news. See? And that's with me not doing the postcast, not bringing them bad luck tonight. I am Pete Fox. This is the Locked On Chargers postcast on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel, the place to hang out when every game is done. You can also listen to us after the game, wherever you get your podcast on the Locked On Chargers podcast feed. That's additionally where you will find Daniel and David doing the Locked On Daily Charger podcast, breaking it down. I'm sure they'll be on it first thing Monday morning, if not tomorrow night, getting into this one, the first preseason game of the season for the Chargers, losing to the Seattle Seahawks 16-3 in a game that just really wasn't close. I mean, as a Chargers fan, you probably didn't feel like, if you stayed to the end, you didn't feel like they ever had a chance. I know I didn't. It felt like, all right, we need to dig through this pile of rubble and find some silver lining, some bright spots, something that, we feel is interesting and useful heading towards the regular season. So tonight that was a difficult task. So we'll hit the break. When we come back, I will tell you a little bit more about some of the defensive positives. There's a couple of guys that I haven't mentioned yet that played very well, that need or deserve some recognition here on the Locked On Chargers postcast on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel. All right, tonight's episode of the Locked On Chargers postcast is brought to you by our friends at BetterHelp. When your schedule is packed with kids, activities, big work projects, and more, it's easy to let your priorities slip. Even when we know what makes us happy, it's hard to make time for it. As hard as you try, sometimes it just doesn't work out. But when you feel you have no time for yourself, non-negotiables like therapy are more important than ever. I've done therapy online with BetterHelp a couple of times. And most recently, I've done it online a couple of times, most recently with BetterHelp. And for those of you that think it's less personal and more like a phone call, completely not. I've done it in person as well. And they are very, very similar when you're in a live chat with somebody, just like being there with them in person. So don't feel like it's less personal. It is not. If you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Never skip therapy with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Tonight's show also brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your small business. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role with your small business. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking LinkedIn, if you're not looking on LinkedIn, rather, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get qualified candidates within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. All right, Chargers fall on this one. They were never in it. It was never close. Seattle scored first, and the Chargers got on the board with a 58-yard field goal from Dicker, the kicker. And really the highlight of this game, the part that we probably feel the best about as Charger fans when we come away, was that the defense was very, very good. In spite of kind of playing for nothing. I don't want to say they were great. They weren't shut down, but that goal line stand was nice to see. And Hankins was another guy that I was like, yes, that's a nice play by the DB, near interception in the fourth. He jumped the route perfectly. They jumped a handful of routes. And then shortly thereafter, Thomas Harper had a nice sack off the edge to stop Seattle there. So it feels like the corners, they're young, of course, and some of these guys are trying to make the team. So we don't know how that is all going to turn out, but it seems like there's a lot of talent there. And, to start the Jim Harbaugh era with a game like this defensively, I guess is really positive. The fact of the matter is that we know Jim Harbaugh can coach. We seen him be very successful in the NFL as the coach of the San Francisco 49ers. And honestly, look, the Chargers needed a change. So this is a very welcome change. And from an offensive perspective, I don't necessarily think that we were expecting a whole lot. They were trying to be conservative. They weren't, running go routes down the side on a regular basis, especially in the first half. A lot of running the ball, which didn't necessarily work out all that well. And that is somewhat of a negative part of this offense tonight. Jarrett Patterson, 7 carries for 38 yards. Max Duggan was 2 carries for 15 yards. Easton, the 2 quarterbacks were 2 and 3 on the rushing list. So that's not a big positive right there. Easton Stick, 1 rush for 12 yards, which was the Chargers' first down late in the second quarter. He had a nice completion right after that for their second first down. Elijah Dotson, 3 carries for 7 yards. And Isaiah Spiller, 5 rushes for 5 yards. But I thought Isaiah Spiller was better as receiver, 3 catches for 18 yards. So that was decent. It wasn't great, but there's still a lot of question marks as to who's going to run the ball for this Charger team. With the changes, Austin Eckler being gone and so forth, a lot of questions there. But it did seem like Jim Harbaugh came into this one, and I guess it's not surprising, with the appropriate amount of enthusiasm. I mean, he had that game face on right until the end of this preseason football game. So I feel like, the future's bright for the Chargers right now. Having Jim Harbaugh trying to figure this out, trying to get the Chargers back on track, get them back in a successful string here of winning football games and making a run at the playoffs and so forth. Obviously, the AFC West is extremely challenging with the Super Bowl champs in the division. But here's the good news for Chargers fans sitting down there looking up at the Kansas City Chiefs. It is tough, very tough, to win as many football games consecutive seasons as the Kansas City Chiefs has. So that's the good news, right? They won the Super Bowl last year, and it's tough to repeat. And they definitely have that hanging over their head. So we can sit here and just rub our hands together and go, yeah, you're the champs. Yeah, just wait. We'll see how that goes, because there's a lot of football that you guys played last year and the year before that and the year before that. So at some point it catches up with teams like the Kansas City Chiefs. They're still a great team, and I'm not trying to take anything away from them. But that is tough to do, winning back-to-back Super Bowls. So the Chargers have a real shot this year at making a good run under Jim Harbaugh. So let's hope that the preseason improves. They find more talent that they weren't necessarily expecting. And, they put together a nice offense and defense and find a running back that can can be effective running the ball for the Chargers and definitely fill out this receiving core, because how many guys caught balls tonight? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Or actually, no, they didn't all catch balls. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys. Jalen Johnson had the longest one for 36 yards. Simi Fehoko, 3 catches for 33 yards. Stone Smart with 2 T's, 2 catches for 18 yards. Isaiah Spiller, as I said, 3 for 18. Elijah Dotson, 2 for 11. Donald Parham had 1 catch. Luke Benson had 1 catch, and Jarrett Patterson had 1 catch. So they're going to have to watch a lot of film and start to narrow that down, and we'll hopefully learn more next week. Again, I am Pete Fox. This is the Locked On Chargers postcast on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel. We come on right after the game, and we break it down for you. But don't forget to check out Daniel and David doing the Locked On Chargers daily podcast, wherever you find your podcast, on the Locked On Chargers podcast feed. Thanks for joining me. Chargers 0-1 in the preseason after falling to the Seahawks 16-13. I'll be back with Locked On Dodgers hopefully tomorrow, depending on travel plans. If not, for sure on Monday, and then we'll do preseason game number 2 next weekend. So we will talk right after that. Again, thanks for joining me here. Appreciate the comments. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a good night.